idea of, the total freedom of, sometimes I see grandparents who are just like, everything is great and everything's wonderful. So I kind of ask the Lord about when to say things and when not to say things, and sometimes I make big mistakes. But yeah, and the greatest thing about being a grandmother, if I could just wrap that up, is the books that I've been writing about my grandchildren under the Ella Francinella series, and we're about to have another one come out. But that's been a lot of fun for me, just kind of getting into their minds and how they see things, and how they speak and how they talk. I had a cute little thing happen this week. Ella was very upset. She's my granddaughter that's on Ella Francinella, and she said to me, they call me Goo. So she said, Goo, I don't know what to do. She texted me, everybody hates me, and I'll never feel the same again, and nobody's going to ever trust me again, and I'm never going to see anyone again. And I made her laugh. I said, oh, you didn't hear, in this family you get 400,000 chances to be trusted. So you're down to 399,000 chances.
That was the spirit.
And that lifted her up right
Oh,
away.
she loved it. She loved it. She
Oh,
said, oh,
great.
Goo, you're making me laugh and cry at the same time.
Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's great. Well, I just want to piggyback what you said about the Ella books. They are really great from my experience. They're for children and adults. And another book is coming out really soon.
Yeah, that's right. The Birthday Ballet.
The Birthday Ballet. Yeah.
Birthday of ballet.
The Birthday Ballet.
Oh, ballet, like dancing.
Ballet.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, and if you want to check them out more, there's a Facebook page, Ella Francinella. There's also a website, or you could
The website,
contact us.
and we have ellagrams, which are little kind of parables for kids every day under the radar. A lot of fun stuff going on. We got a whole a friend group that turns out to be angels in disguise.
Yeah,
so we got
I like that.
a lot of nice stuff going
That's
on.
a recent ad, and I love it. And yeah, if you wanted to call in or text in today, our call-in number is 516-623-1240. Again, it's 516-623-1240, or you could text me. You can remain anonymous if you like. If you have any questions for us or Father Peter or anything, the text in is 516-784-6081. Again, it's 516-784-6081. So great. How should we proceed, Barbara? We have a lot of great topics to get into.
Well, I guess we'll do it chronologically. We'll start with Melissa.
Sure.
So, Melissa, 3 months ago, you became a mother. But you really became a mother when you, of course, started the whole thing.
I was thinking about that, too. Like, did I just become a mother 3 months ago? Really?
No,
really?
not
It was
really.
when she was conceived. So, it feels like I'm a new mother, but not really. I guess what I wanted to say really is, like, being a parent, there's a million and one things you have to do for your child. Each and every second, you're responsible to take care of them, change their diapers or whatever. But even then, I still feel like my daughter Eva, like, she's done a million things more for me than I've done for her. It's true what they say, that your whole world changes. You change, and then the whole world, the way you see the world changes. And she's definitely, I think, made me a better person. I think she's increased my faith. Because of her, I constantly am aware of the fact that I have to be a witness, to my faith. And, they say you have to always be a witness to the hope that is within you. And she's a constant reminder to me that I have to witness to the truth, because she's always watching me. Everything I do, and it's true, like, they're going to imitate you. So you have to be so careful. So to me, that's a better reminder.
You notice that she's watching you already?
Yes, the answer to that is yes.
She's watching already? That's Father Peter. She's watching already?
She's watching very carefully. Even when I go to the doctor's appointments, all they say is she keeps looking at you. When I move to the side, she watches me. Wow. So it's a constant reminder of witness to me, that you have to always witness. I have to show her that my faith is not just something like an activity that we do on Sundays, but that it has changed me, and it's something that affects every aspect of who I am. So in that sense, she's helped me more, I think, than I've helped her so far.
Well, she loves you back just by receiving your love.
Yes.
Yeah, she's part of the exchange. She bounces the love back to you just
Sure.
by receiving it. Yeah.
Sure.
So she's doing her part already.
She's doing her part,
She's
you know,
doing
and
her part already. Yeah.
she's so inspiring, just being the little cute thing that she is, and so
Yeah.
innocent and so good and so
Oh.
pure, you know. And I just feel like I would do anything to help her retain that innocence,
Right.
you know, and that goodness.
What
You
was
know.
the big surprise about having a baby that you weren't expecting?
Oh boy. Well, it is true in the beginning. Like every moment of your time is taken up by motherhood, you know, and my whole routine changed. You know, I had no routine for a while, and I was going a little bit crazy and feeling overwhelmed. But she's a very good baby, and at this point, we've settled into a good routine. So now I'm finally just getting comfortable, just in time to go back to work. So that's gonna be a
Tell
challenge.
us about that. Yeah, what are your plans? How are you going to do that?
Oh, well, thankfully now they have this new New York State Paid Family Leave Act nowadays. So actually, my husband Joe will be home with her for 2 months, so he gets a chance to bond.
Oh, great.
So I've enjoyed now almost 3 months. I'll be home for another 2 weeks, but I don't know how it's gonna be going back to work because everybody tells me how hard and devastating it is, and I feel like now at this point I'm not looking forward to it.
And then what's
know.
going to happen after those 2 months that Joe is with her?
Yeah, I know like his parents are available and they say that they're happy to help. But I'm also, contemplating looking into like a daycare or something, because I feel like 5 days a week might be too much, to ask somebody else to watch her. I wish I could just do both and take her to work.
Yeah,
you know?
now aren't there some places that actually allow that now?
Yes, and I've asked my boss and she laughed when I said that. She said, unfortunately, we're not one of them right now.
We're not one of them.
But there are places.
There are places. I saw it on the news recently that some places allow you to take in a newborn, and mine is very well behaved. I feel like she'd just sit there quietly under the desk, And my coworkers have said they'd watch her, take turns watching her. And
Under the desk.
Yeah.
What was, so I know that when you first have a baby, it's quite a surprising moment. What was it about Joe and you that, like, did you have any kind of little misunderstandings or moments or challenges or issues? Did anything come up?
You know what? Not really. Not really.
He was
I can't
good.
really
He
think
was
about
good
it.
helping you out.
Joe is amazing. I can see.
He's too amazing. He's not a good example.
He's not a good example.
He's too amazing.
He
yeah.
loves her, so
Yeah.
much. He's he can't wait to be home with her, to have that, special time with just her.
That is
Aw.
great.
I mean, I think the
beautiful.
most special time was just taking her home. The day we took her home and taking her out of the car, and bringing her into the house. That was so like emotional and overwhelming, and we both cried. And there was nothing like that.
Was anyone there to welcome you, or
Just no.
just the two of you guys?
Just us. But
Wow.
from then on, we knew it was just not going to be just us in that home. It was the
Yeah.
three of us. So
Yeah.
that's what was so touching and
Oh, that's great.
overwhelming.
Because I know a lot of times, like young mothers will say, "Well, I was there trying to nurse the baby, and and he was making himself dinner, and I think sometimes guys go into another zone. They don't know what to do.
You know what? That is true. That is
They
true.
kind of go back to that. Excuse me, caveman.
Ah.
taking care of themselves, kind of thing. You know what I mean, like that.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know if it is just that guys maybe have changed a little bit these days, or if it's just Joe. But I think he's
well, that's
wonderful.
true. Yeah,
You know.
like I said, he's not a good example.
I couldn't ask for you better help.
Congratulations, Joe.
Yay, congratulations.
And Joe is here listening. So.
Yes, yeah, he's helping in the room right here. You could jump in and join if you want, whatever.
Oh, he has no mic.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Caterina, along
yes.
those lines, do you hear any of your friends talking about what it would be like to be a mother, or do you think people are interested in having children as much these days among your peers?
of kids my age,
Yeah,
you mean?
yeah.
In
your generation?
My generation, I feel like not as much. I feel like kids my age are more like into other things, or not really. I feel like the family's kind of like put to the side, or they see it more as a financial burden and more as a burden than joy and blessings. And I think it's just maybe they just don't hear it as much or have like friends or people to talk to them about these things. I feel like people don't really know much about being a mother or being a father, or you know, sometimes they come from broken families and they do want the best and they do want to be a good mom, but sometimes I think the idea is maybe like, okay, I want to buy my kid like the latest toy, or like, you know, I want to make sure they have nice clothes or like do certain stuff, and I feel like the focus is taken away from maybe like the actual family itself and like spending time and doing that, and it's more, I feel like the focus is a little distracted, and yeah, I think it is a little bit of a struggle. Some of my friends are a little younger, some are just recently engaged, so they're at different levels, and I try to look up to my friends that are recently married or recently have children, like Melissa Joe, my friends from Stony Brook, actually Melissa as well, and Brian, and some other people. So I guess I'm trying to look for good role models and mothers and grandmothers like yourself, and I asked my mom, and you know, so I kind of get information in different ways.
I know we were supposed to have your mom here. She couldn't make it, but what would you say to her? What is one of the best things about her?
Oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that, but my mom, she's just wonderful, but also scary at the same time.
I love it.
My little sister was so cute. She said when she was like 5 or 6, we did a little video. And my sister Serena, she said, all about my mom. She's nice, she's beautiful, she's mean, and she's nice.
I love it. I love it.
So you have all those little things in there. You know, she's
You have 2 nices and only 1 mean.
Oh,
so.
and only 1 mean.
Right.
So she's stern, but she's also really kind, and just really cares so much about the family and about us, and you know, really cares for our well-being and salvation is what I know. It's a big word, but she prays for us. She wants to make sure the house is tidy, you know, normal stuff. She just loves being with us, and just very simple. You know, she's a very practical woman. Very, you know, like if she's at the store, you know, buying certain things or getting food on sale, you know, she always knows where to go. So, yeah, she's a great role model for
I like
me.
that word practical, because I think that's such a good key, right, Melissa?
Oh, practical, absolutely.
Right? Doesn't it bring out
Absolutely.
your most practical self?
Yeah, absolutely.
Being a mother, you mean? in
Yeah.
general? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I've always been the greatest with time management and stuff, but when you have so little of it, I think you're forced to get better. So I think that's another thing she's done for me. You know, I can't be so lackadaisical anymore with my time. Like, I have to be very organized.
And do you have a lot of people your age who, you know, friends of yours who have children yet, or?
Yeah, at this point, seems like most of our friends are having children, at least the ones that are married and so forth. But I was thinking about what Caterina was saying, and I think it's true, you know, that there is a great fear nowadays, maybe more than in the past, to have children. And it's seen mostly like in a financial lens, you know.
Oh, okay.
I think
How much
so.
it's going to cost?
Yeah, how
Or-
much it's gonna cost. That's the first thing
Or
they say.
maybe in this region because it's expensive on Long
Mhm.
Island. I'm not sure if that's the case maybe out west or in other places.
That could be
but
true.
that's what I kind of noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we were an industrial country, it was really a very practical thing to have
It
kids,
was a blessing, right?
Yeah, to
More-
have many kids.
More hands on deck.
Yeah, in an agricultural realm.
Well, we have a different sociology on Long Island now. You know, we have a lot of young families thinking about moving off the island because of housing is so expensive, taxes are high, and so forth. But and they're delaying having children and all of that. It impacts the life of the parishes. Our enrollment in our religious ed programs is going down because there's simply fewer children. So we'll hope that they'll balance itself out, and we'll see an uptick in some of this stuff in a few years. But right now, like you say, the people are hesitant because children had been an economic asset. Now everybody's, how am I going to get this kid through Harvard or something like that? And
Oh, yeah.
what's going on with all of that? But needless to say, that the Holy Spirit should be active in the hearts and minds of young married people, and hopefully they'll follow his impulse and they'll do the right thing.
So do you see, Father Peter, a trend shifting in the number of marriages and
Well, right now
baptisms?
marriages are low right now, but people are coming for baptisms in the parishes. I mean, most parishes report a lot of people are coming to have their babies baptized. They're not yet married themselves, or they're civilly married. So we're trying to work on all of those problems simultaneously and encourage them to straighten things out there so that they can, really have an opportunity to confirm their commitment to each other. And to live in the sacrament of matrimony, even as they're thinking about their baby already. So sure, they're putting the cart before the horse, but in a way, we're glad they're coming in, because at least we have a chance to talk to them and try to make some progress with that. Weddings are down, baptisms are holding about the same, and of course, an aging population, funerals are up, but we're looking for some of those lovely young people to move in. We're excited that even in our own parish, some new housing is going up. On the one end, we're going to have some senior housing. On the other hand, we're going to have some regular housing. So all of this should bless St. Francis Parish, hopefully in a big way.
Yeah, so is anyone ever turned away because they're not married and they'd like their child to be baptized?
Well, we try to baptize all the children, to get them, because it is in a previous generation, priests were instructed they couldn't do this unless they could just ascertain that the child would be raised Catholic faithfully and so forth. We're trying to give them every opportunity to make that choice, because we realize that they're trying to do the right thing, even though their lives are not in perfect order right now. We're trying to make that work for them.
Well, that sounds like God's mercy
That's
upon us all.
That's the mercy of God, as Pope Francis is reminding us, as he's so much reminding us. I have this, I wouldn't be able to let this little hour go without sharing the passage of the scriptures about the perfect wife. I laugh about it a little bit because it's so reflective of society at that time, and what Jewish folk, principally, you have to say yes, in the upper classes, we're looking for in a woman. Okay, so but I just want to read it because the ladies here are going to just get a chuckle out of some things. Okay, and on the other hand, they'll see the pertinence of it. It used to be called the valiant woman. Then they made it a little more prosaic, the perfect wife, and so forth like that, or the truly good wife. But anyway, let me read. A perfect wife, who can find her? She is far beyond the price of pearls. Her husband's heart has confidence in her, and from her he will derive no little profit. Advantage and not hurt she brings him all the days of her life. She is always busy with wool and with flax. She does her work with eager hands. She is like a merchant vessel, bringing her food from far away. She gets up while it is still dark, giving her household their food, giving orders to her serving girls. She sets her mind on a field and then buys it. With what her hands have earned, she plants a vineyard. She puts her back into her work, and she shows how strong her arms can be. She finds her labor well worthwhile. Her lamp does not go out at night. She sets her hands to the distaff. Her fingers grasp the spindle. She holds out her hand to the poor. She opens her arms to the needy. Snow may come. She has no fear for her household. With all her servants warmly clothed. She makes her own quilts. She is dressed in fine linen and purple. Her husband is respected at the city gates, taking his seat among the elders of the land. She weaves linen sheets and sells them. She supplies the merchant with sashes. She is clothed with strength and dignity, and can laugh at the days to come. When she opens her mouth, she does so wisely. On her tongue is kindly instruction. She keeps good watch on the conduct of her household. No bread of idleness for her. Her sons stand up and proclaim her blessed. Her husband, too, sings her praises. Many women have done admirable things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful and beauty empty. The woman who is wise is the one to praise. Give her a share in what her hands have worked for. Let her works tell her praises at the city gates. Well, the guy's got the best of it. He can sit with the senators of the town, you know, the representatives, and look like an important guy. But it's the wife keeping the lamp up at night, and then she gets up before dawn. I mean, this is some woman. I mean, not only, and then she finds she saved enough money to buy a field and turn it into a vineyard.
She did it all herself.
Let me meet this person. Let me meet this person. It's
This
an
must be
amazing,
Caterina's mom.
it's
my mom.
an amazing thing. But anyway,
That's a great thing because it's like a lot of practical stuff there.
practical thing. A little
You
bit
know?
from the male point of view, a little bit chauvinistic here, but when she opens her mouth, in other words, that she's not always talking, you hear that.
I
She
heard the
was.
wisdom
When
part.
she
of
does
it.
so wisely,
Wisdom.
right? She does so wisely. You hear all that? Oh my gosh.
That's great.
Wow.
So, Carol, talk to us about your experience. Maybe you can talk a little bit about also the middle years of being a mother.
Well, I was first a mother during the time of the Great Revolution, of being one of the, and therefore, thank God I had the wisdom to be able to not have her as the first child, because I don't think I'd have another then,
Oh.
very honestly, because it was tough. So I think for me, motherhood has been difficult all along, actually. I mean, I love my children. I brought pictures of my children and my grandchildren. See, and opposite of Barbara, with my grandchildren, I was ready to be their grandma, but I still don't know when to keep my mouth shut at times.
But I find out after I do the wrong. That's when I usually find out.
Well, they don't even tell me, I just know. So I text and say, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. You know, after I put it out there, I go, oh, I think I did. I said too much. So,
That's gotta be tough.
yeah, I'm very pleased for you and for your husband that you are so aware. I mean, for me, anyway, it wasn't that awareness. It was you got married, and then you had a child. And then, in my generation, then you went out to work and had a child and didn't know what to do with all of this. So as Father Peter talks about the community, you know, and the socioeconomic in the late 60s, early 70s was very different too. There was a lot of confusion, tremendous amount of confusion, tremendous amount. And unfortunately, with my first children, my first two, unfortunately, it was also the time you didn't live with unbearable circumstances, so I became one of those who had a broken family. So you're talking about a lot of psychosocial factors there. And by the time I married my present husband of many, many years, our child was born with a birth defect. So it was like very different. God was in it all. I mean, God was in it all. But it was just my humanity took over my supernatural being, my soul. So it's been a journey.
What were the parts that were difficult? I know you mentioned the whole thing is difficult, but I guess just kind of adjusting to the socioeconomic and how to be a mother and having a child, like all of that wrapped in one. Or?
Yeah, I mean there were. I'm talking about that part. I'm not saying there weren't good parts to all of it. But I mean, I babysat when I was young, but I was so naive that I had to have the visiting nurse come to my house to show me how to bathe my 5-pound, 6-ounce daughter. Because I was afraid I was going to drown her.
No, it's tough.
Right?
I'm still not sure I'm doing it right with the
I know.
bathing.
Or get up in the evening and sure she's sleeping too long. Is she really breathing?
I think, that addresses a great myth that we're supposed to just know automatically how to do all this stuff. I felt the same way. I had no idea what I was doing.
Yes.
I understand exactly what you're
Yes.
saying.
Yes.
I still don't actually have any idea.
I agree with you, Barbara. And, it was also the days where, although you're working and you're having children, the husbands were not that involved in the child care at all.
No, it was a whole different world. Yeah.
So we've
Yeah.
come a long way in our society. I mean, it came a long way in our society. But it's just, your question was what were the most difficult parts? Is that?
Yeah, or and how did you get through them, and what were the blessings of those hard times? Like, how did you see the Lord in those moments, or maybe looking back now, even if your faith, you're at a totally different level now with your faith? Is that,
Yeah.
I know, does that make sense? My
Yeah,
question?
yeah, I'm at a
Mhm.
different level, but I always had my faith, and had I not had my faith, I wouldn't have made it. I really wouldn't have made it,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. And I thank God for the difficult times because they made me into who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I thank God for my children who have been a great blessing. There have been many, many, many times during the years where they brought me great joy just by showing. I think what it is to be a mother is just to love. The rest of it is, I don't know. The rest of it doesn't really matter that much. You know, I think each mother is going to do their things, many good things, but they're also going to do things that perhaps are not so good for their children. Not on purpose, but
Yeah.
that's the reality of life. I mean, I'm a therapist, so we hear all about that. And I'm telling you that mothers get it all, more so than the fathers, honestly.
Right.
Mothers
Yes.
get it all.
You mean
Yes.
blame?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Blame,
I always say I can make a lot of money if you want to talk about your mother.
Right.
Right?
It's true. It's true. It's true. So mothers have a very important role. One time, someone said to me, and I believe this, mother, if you have a glass and you fill it with milk, the role of the mother is to be the fluid, the life-giving part, the milk that's there for the soul and the human part of a child. And the glass is the fathering role, to give it structure and to give boundaries and things like that. So although, you know, we go into both, I'm not saying it's an either or, but it's important that you can have both the softness and the gentleness and the spirit, as well as, like, this is not the way to do it, you know, parameters and things like that. So the blessings were that they love me back, and I love them.
Did you ever say to yourself, I should have maybe gone into the convent?
Many times.
I
should know, Barbara.
Yeah, because I said that many times.
Oh, wow.
I think I had a vocation and I missed it, and that's why God's punishing me.
Oh, I'm so happy I have a friend. Yes, many times that life looks a little easier to me.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have messed that one up, but yeah, no, it's hard. And I think also, Carol, don't you think, from what we know in counseling, that our own relationship with our own mother has such an impact on us too? And we
Oh, absolutely. And I think it goes to the biblical, the sins of the father, right?
yes.
Meaning the generations that happened, and who my mother had as a mother affected her, and then it affects me. And, you know, I think I can see more the stuff my mother, how she affected me, but now I can see how I affected my children. And now I see how my children are affecting their children. And I pray a lot. Because they love, they have good pieces. My family's great. I can't say they're not great. But, you know, sometimes when you see, like Father was reading about the wisdom, you see, as you go through life and you're more in touch with the Spirit, you see things that you look at and you say, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part of being a grandmother, right? Because you see so many things that you made mistakes in and that took you so many years to learn, and you want to keep your own children from having to go through that. You want to tell them, wait a minute, I know the answer to this. I learned it, and you can learn it now. How lucky are you? But it doesn't work.
They don't learn it that way, yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question because I just realized that not only do I have two lovely mothers in front of me, but two therapists. And yet, since you just brought it up,
The realization.
Like, yes,
hit
since you just brought it up, like, do you feel that everyone is kind of bound to repeat the mistakes of their mother, or can you actually learn from the mistakes of your mother and do things differently? Like, is it true that you always become your mother?
That's a good question. That's really good.
That's great.
Yeah, that is a great question. Listen, I think each one of my children repeated one of my mistakes. They didn't repeat all of them.
Okay.
They had pieces. And you can't, I couldn't anyway, tell them not to do that because they did it anyway. They have other pieces that they learned from me and did not do it then.
Mm-hmm.
But the older I get, the more I know I've become my mother in many, many
Oh, boy.
ways.
Because you always hear that.
In many ways, not completely, but certain things I'll say, oh yeah, Mom did that, or yeah, Mom did this. But, you know, of course there's pieces of me there too. And the one thing my mother had, she had a great, great spirituality, and I did get that from her.
Okay.
I think that I think also from two perspectives, my kids will say to me, "Oh my God, you're just like Grandma," out of nowhere, and then I'll say to myself sometimes, "Wow, I'm just like my mother,"
Yeah.
you know, and I'm doing the very thing that drove me crazy.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
About my mother.
Why is that?
And I don't know. It's like a knee-jerk thing. It's
It
in
just
your
kind of
DNA.
happens. I
It
feel
just-
like
yeah.
it just is like you just don't even realize sometimes that you're doing it, and then like
Right.
after it happens, you're like it hits you. So
Right. Right.
I guess that's like what you said about your child, just like always watching and
Mm-hmm.
observing.
Mhm.
So like you don't even realize the
Mhm.
stuff that you
Subconscious.
do sometimes. So I think
Mm.
we just have to ask the Lord just to be in His will, and we're trying our best.
And I think it takes a long time too to really appreciate your mom. I think, don't you?
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, the years where I was in, what I found is the years I was in turmoil, I could have blamed my mother for things. And my father. I shouldn't just, I won't leave my father out of this either. But the reality is, and this I see too, if you're in a good space, you can see the good pieces of them,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So when you're in a good space, when your life is moving along, I had an example of that actually this week, that this one person who came in, I mean, and you have to let someone talk, they really were so angry with their mom because their life certainly wasn't going down a good path. And it turned around in the months and life is a little better. Now we don't hear the anger anymore. Oh, my mom, yeah, she's always busy, but she laughs when she says it. She's not angry.
That's quite a turnaround.
Yeah, it is. It is. But
Yeah.
the difference is her life got better.
Mm-hmm. Her life.
Her
She's
life.
less angry.
So her perspective's
Yeah,
better.
yeah. So I think a lot of that has to do with that as human beings we have, well, didn't Adam, I don't know, technically, didn't he blame Eve?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. And men have been doing it ever since, right? Ever since. But it is true, and you know, we want to keep the primacy of the spiritual. Jesus seemed a little cold when his mother and his brothers, or maybe they were his cousins or other relatives, came to see him. And it looks like the context is that somebody told his family that Jesus is getting himself into a lot of trouble out there and arguing with the religious leaders and so forth. So the family comes to see if they can help him out, and they don't get any consolation, because what does Jesus say? It's, if you want to be connected to me, if you want to be my mother, brother, whatever it is, you got to do what God wants, and that's the basic thing. And of course, but we do know that Jesus had a tender affection for his mother too. Also, okay, I mean, it wasn't his intention to change the water into wine. It wasn't his intention, but she leaned on him a little bit, and he did it.
I think that's such a story to celebrate
it.
really the power of
The
motherhood.
power of motherhood, that's right.
And
It
love.
is. And love. He did it for her. And then, of course, on the cross, he was very busy. He had to forgive the good thief. He had to, make forgive his enemies, reconcile the good thief. He had a lot of work to do on the cross. Besides then he takes time to take care of it, make provision for his mother. Son, behold your mother, mother, behold your son. And it seems that there were other relatives there, in Jerusalem. We have to read between the lines that they seem to be the ones who have later on got influential in heading up the Jerusalem church. So James, the brother of the Lord, and so forth like that. But yet he entrusted her, looking ahead, to John, okay, to take care of his mother in her later years. So and he did it from the cross too. So all that agony, he was still thinking of her. So it's a tender kind of moment. It really is. It's worth thinking about.
I wanted to mention something too about the Blessed Mother. Thank you, Father, so much for those snippets. It's really great to think about that this week. And I also have this little book of reflections. Maybe I could read a little bit. And it's very cool. Tomorrow is actually the feast of Our Lady of Fatima and falls on Mother's Day. And that's very appropriate in itself, you know, the Blessed Mother and one of the feasts when she appeared to the three shepherd children. So I wanted to read, this is from Pope Francis' homily, the World Youth Day in 2013. And he says, "Dear brothers and sisters, God calls us by name and surname, each one of us, to proclaim the gospel and to promote the culture of encounter with joy. The Virgin Mary is our exemplar. Watch over me, Mother, when I am disoriented, and lead me by the hand. May you spur us on to meet our many brothers and sisters who are on the outskirts, who are hungry for God, but have no one to proclaim him." And then the reflection is, God is calling you by name to be a missionary in your everyday life. With the gifts he has given you, where is he calling you to proclaim the gospel? So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. What, Carol? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I think I got caught up in the Fatima because then I started remembering actually
Oh yeah, the trip.
the
yeah,
trip
the
to Fatima.
pilgrimage.
And
Yeah,
my
sure.
oldest daughter and her husband got married on May 13th in year
Oh.
2000.
Oh, beautiful.
So there's a lot of things going on in my mind. But I think it's a really wonderful thing. And the other thing that was brought to mind was the bishop calling for dramatic
Dramatic.
missionary growth on Long Island. I think by the love we show to our children and to others, as Barbara was saying, I think in the beginning, and we can be what's called a second-time mother to people. You know, we can help heal the wounds that maybe were put there not on purpose, or sometimes on purpose, I don't know, but whatever, to other people, and then we can proclaim the gospel by showing love. Like, it's not easy, especially in times when things are very difficult. That's why I took the statue of the Pieta here, because oftentimes things might be difficult, and so many times instead of going to love, people go to hate, or they go to anger, or they go to revenge, or whatever they do, and that won't bring dramatic missionary growth. What brings dramatic missionary growth is love. That's what it's all about.
Tell us that term again that you called it. Second.
Oh, we have second-time moms and dads.
Second time moms.
Yeah, you don't have to. There are things that we didn't get from our own mom or our own dad that perhaps, it could even be from watching a movie actually and seeing a snippet of something and we take it into our heart. But it could be other people. For example, my son had a brother, a Franciscan brother, who was very influential in his life, and that brother, he was an adult. My son was a young adult, filled in pieces that we couldn't give my son.
Mm-hmm.
So, or as you say, it could be in therapy. Oftentimes, we're second-time moms, sometimes second-time dads. Priests are, religious are,
Definitely.
Yeah.
but you can be to a neighbor too. You know, a younger person. You to your sister, you're giving her some mothering qualities too. It's not only your mother who's doing that. So there are real gifts in all of that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's very awesome to think about that.
Yeah. I just I liked when it said here, in very Pope Francis style, he's always mentioning about the brothers and sisters on the outskirts, and I think, like you said, there's the physical, that people who are poor and impoverished and need a food or need a bite to eat, that you see and you can physically do something, but it's also the spiritual aspect that sometimes we might not be able to see as close as clearly, and like you said, just being there for that person, and it could be a neighbor or a friend, and helping them spiritually. I think it's really great, and it's like Saint Therese of Lisieux, the little way, what little thing we could do each day in our life, and it makes a big impact. And I also was thinking of a saint today. I was like, oh, there's the Blessed Mother, of course, and also Saint Anne is patron saint of mothers, housewives, and I think she's a great example too. Her and her husband, we don't know much about them, but I guess Father Peter, would you know a little bit more
Well, there
about?
are many. There are many stories told in Gospels that are called the apocryphal Gospels, and that's actually, as a matter of fact, that's where the names Joachim and Anne come from. Okay, it doesn't mean that everything in that Gospel is false. It simply means that the Church didn't accept it as an inspired book. But we honor Joachim and Anne as the parents of Jesus, and of course there's always the statue of Anne, and she's usually reading from a book to Mary. Okay, and the basis of that, of course, is that Mary is shown as having been instructed in the Scriptures. Okay, because after all, she does demonstrate some knowledge of the faith, the Jewish faith, when she's talking to the angel, and then of course the Magnificat is a beautiful summary of the victory theology of the Old Testament. I so magnifies. He's put down, the mighty from their thrones and has exalted the lowly and so forth. It's based on the Song of Hannah in the Old Testament. So you see Anne teaching Mary at an early age to read the Scriptures. Okay, which was perhaps a rarity in those days. It's perhaps girls were in a sense deprived of the instruction really that they should have had in many instances. But that's it, Joachim and Anne, and of course there's a parish, not in our diocese but in Queens, St. Joachim and Anne in Queens Village. So.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So Carol, if you were to give Melissa a golden word of wisdom, or a few golden words, what would it be? I just would be interesting to hear that.
Can I give her a sentence?
Yes, you can give her a sentence.
Well, love, enjoy what you can. You will have good things, but there will also be times when it's going to be very, very difficult. Very difficult. As good as your baby is, Barbara started with the middle years. They were tough years. Everybody's trying to grow up, but in the long run, what you need to do is just love them for who they are and keep praying for them.
I think
Right.
presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's presence.
That's the presence. Right?
Sometimes you just don't have, we think as mothers, we have to always know what to say and do, and there's many times that I don't have a clue, and I'm supposed to be in this business,
Yeah.
and I don't know what to say or do,
Sure.
but I know one thing I can always be is just be present.